Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, bringing you episode 172 here at the Tavern, presented by HeroTaku.com. So, Zyuohger is supposed to be the 40th anniversary of Super Sentai, right? Well, you sure could fool me because, honestly, from what we've seen so far going, what is almost halfway into the series, there is nothing about Zyuohger that tells me that this is the 40th anniversary of Super Sentai. At least based on the previous anniversary seasons that we've had, Zyuohger seems rather disappointing as an anniversary series. Now, don't get me wrong, each series has to stand on its own and tell a complete story, and thus far Zyuohger seems to be doing that without a problem. But when we actually look back at the anniversary seasons that we've had, the three previous ones, it does seem like they're making a concerted effort to include the history of Super Sentai, to educate you on the history of Super Sentai, to call back to the history of Super Sentai, and overall just celebrate the franchise as a whole. And frankly, to get to 40 years, 40 consistent years on television, I don't care what country you're in, is rather significant. And it just doesn't seem to me that Zyuohger is taking any type of advantage of their unique situation. So I want to talk to you guys today about what have we actually done with Super Sentai in the past in comparison to what Zyuohger is actually doing now. Not to really nitpick at the series too much, but really just point out that they keep advertising that it's the 40th Sentai. We see at the beginning of every episode, it's on all the toys and all the merchandise, yet that actually means nothing within the series. So, technically, we've had about 3 anniversary series prior to Zyuohger. Now, the reason I say 3 is it wasn't until Gal Ranger, the 25th anniversary, that they actually started taking it somewhat seriously and actually, do something about it. Of course, we had, previous anniversaries, or at least they said, hey, this is the 10th year, this is the 20th year, back with Car Ranger and Live Man and all that stuff there. But it really wasn't anything particularly significant. We didn't get any type of significance until Gal Ranger. Now, Gal Ranger itself is a standalone series, but what they actually attempted to do is they did have the direct-to-DVD video Gal Ranger versus Super Sentai. And in that film, they unite with 5 Super Sentai heroes of the past, 3 from the 3 previous seasons, and into, 1 from the 80s, and then, of course, 1 from the 1970s. So you had them meet these other characters and actually get a thorough history of Super Sentai that, at the time, was done in clips and flashbacks. So Gal Ranger, being the 25th anniversary, was really there to educate you about the history of Sentai. It's a television show that's been on for a 25-year period. These are the people who were involved with it, and this is why it's significant. That's what Gal Ranger did. Now, the overall series didn't do that. The DVD did, but again, this was the first time they really took a look at the anniversary and decided to do something with it. And, for what it was at the time, it's not all that bad. 5 years later, when we get to Bokanger and the 30th anniversary, they did a little bit more with it. Now, of course, they also had their direct-to-DVD special, Bokanger versus Super Sentai, where they did a similar formula. They got to go ahead and recruit some Rangers from the past, unite together, fight an evil. With the added bonus this time, that a couple of villains from the past have been resurrected and have to fight. We have the introduction of Aka Red, who has essentially been the official symbol of Super Sentai, at least as a personification of a person. And we'll get more into that once we talk about the 35th anniversary. But what was actually interesting about this season, which I will admit I have not actually seen all except the first episode of Bokanger, but what they actually tried to do within the series is have a visual motif for each of the Zords and the monsters throughout the season to have callbacks to previous Zords and robots within the series. Now, there is a list online. I tried finding it, and I really can't. But the general idea is that each of the characters are designed visually in some way to remind you of something that's happened before. For example, Florius's counterpart in Bokanger was designed to remind you of the Daijujin, or the original Megazord. The Fear Cat designs, once they get all cybernetic, are meant to remind you of the Thunder Megazord and the Tiger Zord from Dai Ranger My Morphin Season 2, and so forth and so forth. Again, there's a list out there. I tried finding it for you guys. If I actually find it and I can post it down in the comments, I'll definitely go ahead and do that, but I couldn't find it for some reason prior to doing this recording. But it's the idea that there is a visual motif going through that, calls back to the history of the series, in that if you look at it as a fan who's been there for the 30 years, then you're like, oh yeah, I recognize that. It slightly reminds me of that. And of course, if you're a new fan, you really have no idea, so it doesn't actually impede your interest in the series. So what we've seen in 25th and 30th anniversaries is we get straight to DVD movies, callbacks in the one series, and of course the other didn't. But once we hit the 35th anniversary of Gokaiger, well, I don't really need to tell you guys what happened there, but I mean, we're talking about bringing back Zords, weapons, costumes, characters, actors, picking up storylines, resurrecting people, figuring out what happened after the end of the series to these guys. Um, we had a movie that was, a 2-hour event in which we had the Go-Sager and the Gokaiger uniting together, understanding what the history of Super Sentai is. We have the secondary characters in the background preventing a man from committing suicide. And we have the resurrection of the very first enemy of the Go Ranger, the Black Mask. Looking at the series as a whole, looking at the movie, I mean, how can you get more of an anniversary series than Gokaiger, to be honest? A lot of people are like, what are they going to do to top themselves in the 40th anniversary? And of course, well, we're still waiting to go ahead and see that. So in comparison to the three anniversaries before, Gal Ranger, Bokanger, and Gokaiger, what exactly has Zyuohger done to remind you of the Sentai legacy? Because here's what I'm seeing so far. First of all, we've already got a series that's self-contained. So far, no other references to previous Sentai or Sentai teams. Now, of course, we have a mention of Kamen Rider in there, which was utterly pointless in the episode in which it was in and absolutely means nothing to Zyuohger. You can edit it out from the episode and absolutely lose nothing, so it's honestly not even worth mentioning, but there I did it. We do note there is a movie coming out this summer, but that movie is to introduce the Cube Condor. That's about it. Now, the movie is supposedly going to go ahead and have our three animal mentors, Torin, Kruger, and Master Shafu from, Kyo Ranger, Deka Ranger, and Geki Ranger, respectively. They're supposed to go ahead and appear in the movie, but what significant role they're going to go ahead and play, I don't know. But so far, that is like the only hint we are getting at a connection to the greater Super Sentai universe. But where is the anniversary movie for this series? Where are we going to go ahead and see, or when are we going to go ahead and see them uniting with previous Sentai teams or talking about the history of Super Sentai? None of that's happening. In fact, Ninja has actually done a better job of that than Zyuohger has done. Because consider that Ninja had, Hurricane Red and Ninja Red from Hurricane Ranger and Kaku Ranger show up. Then the Green Ranger from Hurricane Ranger showed up later in the series. Magi Yellow showed up into the series. And then, of course, in the epilogue movie that we got, Fuka is able to clone herself and turn herself into Ninja White and Hurricane Blue. And then, of course, Aka Red shows up in the series, having actually known the grandfather. And, of course, the episode, coincided with the actual anniversary, chronologically speaking, not season, but, the exact date 40 years previously. And then, of course, really, look at it. Ninja is more of an anniversary series than Zyuohger is up to this point. And then, of course, let's take a look at, Go-Sager, which is kind of odd, because actually at the end of Bokanger episodes, they would have a little Super Sentai encyclopedia talk about the different teams, and you're just a little quick, oh, this was the 18th team, and this is what they did, and all that. And then they actually kind of did the same thing in Ghost Sager, where they're like, "Oh, this is what this team did," and they would dress up like them, and it was kind of endearing a little bit. Ghost Sager did more talking about the previous Sentai teams than Zyuohger has done. Let's also talk about the merchandising, because what was one of the big things that we got from the Gokaiger season? We got the Ranger keys, obviously calling back to all the previous seasons that we've had before. uh, Killger, which again was not an anniversary series, had beast batteries in which they had all the previous Sentais in them. Tokuger had Resha, which had the logos of all the Super Sentai previous teams on them, as well as making specific Resha based on actual Zords. They made about 6 of them. So they have done more, even in merchandising for the 40th anniversary. Where's the Go Ranger cube? Where's the Zhu Ranger cube? Where's the Kaku Ranger cube? Where's the Live Man cube? Where's the Dynaman cube? None of that is actually appearing in the series. Now, should I say they should market more toys? Not exactly, but we've seen with a lot of previous seasons that they did try to market the previous teams using the motif of the current season, whether it's batteries or trains or keys. We're not getting any of that in the Zyuohger merchandise. And to be honest, Zyuohger's merchandise has been pretty low key for them. Even though we have auxiliary Zords, we only have like 4, 5 if you count the Cube Panda. So it's really not that bad in comparison to, say, something like Tokuger or Killger, or really what the hell they're doing, Dino Charge at the moment. The merchandising is pretty low here. So, looking at the previous seasons, they're not calling back to previous seasons. They don't have characters showing up in the show. They're not merchandising for the 40th season. And the only thing they're doing in their summer movie is having 3 costumed characters who were mentors and happen to be animals, who I assume are going to be mistaken for humans in this film. So, is Zyuohger actually actively trying to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Sentai? Is there something that is coming that we don't know of? Is there another movie that is similar to what they did with Gokaiger? Or is there an epilogue movie that might come up? Is something going to be significant in the crossover that they do with Ninja eventually? I don't have any of the answers to this, and it just doesn't seem like, based on what I've been reading, that they're planning on doing anything significant in the near future. It just seems to be that this is the 40th anniversary of Sentai. We want you guys to know it, but we're not going to do anything about it. We'll see maybe when we do the 45th anniversary or the 50th anniversary for anything significant. And I guess that's fine. I mean, again, you don't have to call back to it. It has to be a self-contained, series and everything. But it would be nice if they actually, did a couple of things. If they did bring back, I'm an advocate for bringing back some of the original characters and teams. What did I say I wanted this season to be? I wanted it to be the passing of the torch from Go Ranger and the old guard of the 1970s, the old spy and technological world, and where things are not mystical, to this new generation where everything is science fiction and magic and computer generated everything. I wanted this to be like Go Ranger 2.0. That's not what happened, obviously. But it'd be nice, maybe if we have some sort of connection. Maybe do what they did in Dino Thunder and bring a veteran ranger back to actually be the mentor of the group. I've always said bring back the guy who's playing Aka Ranger to do that, or the guy who played Big One. There are any number of things that you could go ahead and do here, but they haven't. Are they saving this for the 45th or 50th anniversary? Who knows? I don't know how far they plan ahead. But so far, the 40th anniversary is just kind of, nah. Nobody really seems to care about it, which again, I just find odd. I don't get. I mean, we spend more time telling children about animals in this series than we do tell them about Super Sentai, which in the long run is probably the better thing to do, but I'm just disappointed, I guess. I wanted to see something. I wanted to see that celebration. I wanted to see the significance of it. Heck, if they did something like Turbo Ranger, where episode 0 or episode 1, however you want to look at it, just has the Zyuohger fighting and all the previous Sentai teams just show up for no reason to cheer them on without actually fighting, that would at least be something. But here, it's really nothing, and it's just kind of disappointing. But I want to know what you guys think. Is it disappointing that we don't really have anything going on for the 40th anniversary? Do you think they're going to do anything for it down the line here, or by the end of the year, or is this something where we're just not really going to care about, just going to skip over it because maybe they're not obligated to do anything, and they're just like, let's just wait to the next one. We'll see, and I want to know what you guys think about that. So I want to thank you guys for listening. Have a good evening, and the tavern is now closed.